Hey guys, welcome back to the Psalms to Guide YouTube channel. I want to talk to you guys about how to journal for you or how to find a journaling style that works for you. And to do that, I want to compare and contrast two journals that I have that had essentially the same purpose and I was trying to accomplish the same thing, but I had various levels of success with the two journals. And I want to talk about what I discovered about myself in the process and help you to think about things that are making journaling difficult for you and how to simplify those processes. So, here I have two different journals that I used as daily devotional journals. And my goal with both of these journals was to study the word each day and to write entries and to use these journals to keep up with those things. I used this one first. This one I created, I think, in maybe like 2022, 2021 ish. This one I am using currently. I started using this in January of this month. I have had a lot of success with this one. I very much enjoy the style of this one and have been having a lot of fun with it. This one caused me a lot of anxiety and I struggled really hard to keep up with it, as you're going to see when we crack it open and look inside. And so I want to talk about why that was and what changed and how I improved upon this process. So, first, I want to talk about the different journals. I don't think the actual journal that I used has anything to do with how like my usage of them changed. This one is a handmade journal. I made this personally. I did the stitching and the binding. I created the covers and sewed the interior together. And this one is a purchased journal. This one is a Scribbles That Matter. I don't know if you can see the STM. It's kind of hard to focus it on the camera, but this is a Scribbles That Matters journal. So I didn't actually make this one, but the paper quality in both of them is similar. And so I didn't really have an issue. Neither one of these are the kind that you can like fold over on the back and flip it over. They have kind of a similar, I guess, feel to them. So there wasn't that much of a difference in the construction of the journal or what supplies I could use in the journal, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't really think that that was the issue. But I did do more planning for this journal than I did for my first journal. So my first journal, I kind of started out of the blue. I started it in July. I created these tabs on the side for each month to help me get to the month that I was on more quickly. Whereas in this journal, I have it comes with the little bookmark thing. So I just put a bookmark in there, and it's a little bit harder to flip back and find months in this journal. But as far as moving forward, it's not that big of a deal. I did watercolor paper intermittently in this journal. And so I was able to do this cover and create some more artistic spreads because I had heavier weight paper. And to be honest, that was probably the first downfall of this journal. So this cover was very fun to do. It's not that big of a deal to do a really fancy cover. This is something you sit down and do once, and then you keep it moving. But I tried to be that artistic all the time. So this is what my monthly spread looked like for each of these months. I did a similar thing. I would do this circle with the numbers representing the days of the month. And then I had this kind of like centerpiece that I drew. This is both my handwriting and my artwork as these sunflowers. And these took a long, long, long time. I'm pretty sure I have videos on this journal on the YouTube channel if you want to see like specific things. But it would take me so long to create this little cutout in the center. It would take me a long time to draw this circle and to try to divide up these things and create this. But again, you're doing this one time a month. So it's not a huge deal, but it was very time consuming and the source of some of my anxiety. In comparison, I kind of wish I had waited till July so I'd have a July to July, but this is what the monthly spread looks like for this journal. As you can tell, there's actually way more stuff on it, which is interesting. But this one is easier to do. It's just squares. It's just blocks. It's very easy to do blocks. You can use a ruler to create perfectly straight lines. I did not, so the lines are not really perfect. You can't tell on camera, but if you were looking at this in person and holding it up to your face, you'd see some like some wobbliness of the lines. This one I used a very simple font. I do use more complicated fonts or more, I guess, decorative fonts in other months, but I changed the font each month. Each month I did the same kind of a layout. And here is where I think it really changed. So in this one, I didn't try to create an actual calendar for days 1 through 31 for January, as you can see. But here I marked out each week. So week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I put the dates, January 1st through the 7th, the 8th through the 14th, etc. And then I told myself what I was going to study during those weeks. And this is basically like a planning dashboard. This, although you can see what I studied here on the side, I was doing this after the fact. There was no planning up front where I was like, okay, on the first day I'm going to study Daniel 1 verses 1 to 2 and Daniel, or on day 2 I'm going to study Daniel 1 verses 3 and 4 or something like that. I didn't go into this with any planning whatsoever. This, I had a plan. And so I had something that was easier for me to keep track of. Over here I had a gratitude thing. This is the only place where I have like days, and here I have the day of the week, and then here I have the day number. And each day I would write something that I was grateful for. I had a prayer list section, a testimony section, a Bible verse. But it was really easy to see what my goal was for the month. I would come here and write out whatever my gratitude was. I knew who I was studying. I was studying one woman per week. I even went ahead and before I actually started this, I created a list of women. There are exactly 52 women in this list. There are 52 weeks in the year. So all I have to do is at the beginning of the month, pull women from this list to decide to study for that month. And that makes it so much easier. And then each day of the week, I have pre-prompted. So in the beginning, there's this like page here where you can do like a key code. And I wrote the daily prompts up front where basically what I'm doing is the first day I'm reading the passage. The second day I'm asking questions about the passages. The third day I'm thinking about like if I could sit down and talk to this woman that I am studying, what would I want to talk to her about? Which ultimately ends up being more questions sometimes, but just kind of thinking about what it would be like to talk to this person, kind of humanizing them and what I think I would want to know from them. Then on the fourth day, I do kind of like genealogy, timeline stuff. I will do a word study on the person's name. I'm going to look up like who they're related to and how they fit into the larger picture of the Bible. When did they exist, etc., etc. And then the last 3 days, I've been using this method called photo theology. It was developed by Pastor Ivor Myers. He has a deck of cards that go that you can use for this, and you pull it, and it has basically like a question or a topic or something. So for instance, they have like, well, it's about different rooms. They call it rooms, but they have like a fruit room, and it might say like, how does this text relate to love, or how does this relate to faithfulness? And it'll list the different fruits of the Spirit. Or it'll be like, how does this relate to the life of Jesus? Or can you relate this to another passage? What kind of symbols are here, et cetera, et cetera. Those types of questions. So I have 3 days for those, and I just pull a card from the deck and answer that question. So I planned that up front. So each day I know what I'm going to study or how I'm going to go about studying this person. And then I had themes for each month. They are actually kind of written out in pencil. I'm going to go back and put them in pen eventually. I don't know why I didn't do that up front. I don't think I had my pens with me. But I have the themes up front, so I don't have to think about that going into the month either. It just took a lot of the thinking out of the equation. The other thing that is very different about this is that going in, I used stickers. I think in the video where I set this journal up, I talked about the stickers that I used. This is hand-drawn, and as I went into doing this journal, these sunflowers are all hand-drawn. I do have some stickers in this journal because I'm not really good at drawing people, but all of these sunflowers are hand-drawn, which took a lot of time and was very daunting. That was a huge part of the anxiety that I felt. Excuse me. When I went into the month of August, I really like this. This is really pretty, but again, this is hand drawn. Like this took a long time. This took a long time. And then when I went to try to do this in the dailies, I drew these little tiny bees. Those weren't that bad. And then I came into these stickers, but it was very, I don't know, it was just intimidating because I'm not really a great artist. But even I think if I was a great artist, it takes a long time to actually draw, a painting or a picture that's worth drawing. And as you can see, here is where I started doing poorly. I got tired of trying to draw things like this or like this. And so I decided I was going to create something more simple. And I ended up doing this shapes with a 90s color explosion of a theme. I ended up not doing this page over here because I couldn't figure out what this theme was going to look like. And then when I actually started doing my dailies, this is chaotic. This hurt my eyes. I did not like it. So I did not want to continue, and I did not. Then I tried to go back and do the pretty things. And again, this was nice. I really like how this looks, but it was very difficult to keep up with. And so I started struggling again. And, again, no planning. This was beautiful. Loved this idea, but not something you can do every day. And so I did word studies this time. I did not plan out my word studies in advance. I think this would have been a great thing to do a different word every day, but I didn't plan it out. So then I would have to come up with a word that day, and I didn't always succeed at that. As you can see, the pictures started getting really, scarce. And so I just struggled, and then I just stopped because I couldn't keep up with it and I was struggling. In contrast, like I said, my new journal, I planned things out so I don't have to think about what I'm going to do. And I'm using stickers for the artwork. Now I'm drawing out my headings, I'm drawing out fonts, and I change them up occasionally to keep things interesting. And I try to keep it, do some things that make it cohesive for the month. So that's where the themes for the month come in with like the color. The headings for the actual person that I'm studying each week is the same throughout the month. But putting in the stickers makes it so much easier because all I have to do is stick in a sticker and then write the text. I don't really have to worry about spending an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours drawing it out. Again, I bought this sticker set well in advance and thought out the theme for each month so I don't have to try to figure out what I'm going to do when that month gets there, and I'm not like scrapping for ideas. Mostly going into the new month, I'm just debating on like the font that I'm going to use for this cover page and what type of a font I want to use for the person that I'm studying each week. And then I switch these up each week, and I go, I create the spread as I go. And it has been way less stressful. I think my overhead camera just shut off. So I'll finish this video without the under camera. Give me a second and I will flip it back to me. All right, so the overhead camera died. So I'm just gonna finish it out with my face. I think I showed you everything that I really wanted to show you in the actual journals. Both journals are on the channel with setups and things like that if you're curious about the journals themselves. But essentially, the main difference between my new journal and my old journal is planning and simplicity of the artwork. Now, each person is different. You may have different things blocking you from your journal and that I have from blocking me with my journal. But I think it's important as you try things to try to recognize what those things are and figure out how to simplify that process. So in the case of mine, the daunting task for me was figuring out what I was going to study. When I do sit down and study, a lot of times I pick out things that are very, very large. And it's sometimes overwhelming to try to do those types of studies in one sitting every single day because I will sit down and do a 2-hour study. But you can't do that every day. Every day you can't dedicate 2 hours to Bible studies. A daily devotion is usually 5, 10, maybe 20 minutes at the most. And so by doing this Women of the Bible study, where I'm picking the woman out, I'm reading a passage and summarizing it, and then I'm asking questions about it, these are things that are much smaller. And even in like asking the questions, I can go back and expand on those questions and answer those questions at a later date, later in the week, later in the month, whenever I choose to. But I can just sit there and think about it in that moment. And so for me, breaking it down and planning that out was very helpful, as opposed to me just trying to do it on my own, on the fly each day. For others, that might be too restrictive. You may want the freedom to choose in the moment. Another thing, like I said, for me was the art part. And I've seen this a lot in the comments where people feel overwhelmed either by, the fonts, the handwriting, the art, the lettering, the color. We all have different brains. They work different. I am a bit of a perfectionist with my handwriting. As you can tell, a lot of my journaling spreads have very neat handwriting, very, I might get a little carried away with the lettering for headers and things like that. That might be a trigger for you. That might be something that causes you anxiety. Don't do your journal like that. Find a way that you can do your journal with less intensive handwriting. Make it where you could, maybe it is just chicken scratch, but as long as it's working for you, then it's working for you. It doesn't have to be about the beautification of the spread. Maybe you like neat things, but it's too much color. Maybe you just do one color. And in fact, in my current journal, the one that I'm working on right now, each month is color themed. The stickers are color themed, and then the text is color themed. Maybe you just want to pick one color for the whole year. Maybe you want to do one color per month. Maybe you want to do a color combo. Something like that. Just plan it out and stick with that and make it more simplistic. Maybe you like doodling. Maybe you want to do like little doodles. And another thing, maybe you do like the really artistic spreads like the ones that I showed in my first journal that I struggled to keep up with. Maybe you also struggle to keep up with it, but you still want that. One of the things I have done with this current journal is that sometimes I don't have time to journal that day. So instead of skipping the entry altogether, I'll take notes on my phone. Maybe I jot notes on a scrap piece of paper. I still do the study, but then I put it in the journal later. So maybe if you want to do super artistic spreads, maybe you are writing stuff on your computer or on your phone or on a scrap piece of paper. And then on the day of the week that you have the most time, maybe a Saturday or a Sunday if you're off, or if you have a different type of a job where you're off during the week, whatever day that you have to sit down and do the art, that's when you do the art. That's when you put everything into your journal. Just finding things that work for you. That is the key. Identifying what gives you anxiety about your journal and how you can take that aspect and make it simple, make it easy. That is what I have been doing and what I've been working on. I haven't posted as much because, again, one of the things that makes it difficult for me is sitting here. As I just told you, my camera died while I was filming this video. And a lot of times when I try to film me making spreads for you guys, the camera does die. And then I feel like I have to stop and wait for it to charge, or I just do it anyway and then the video comes out kind of weird. That, for me, hampers me journaling efficiently. So for my current journal, I haven't really filmed myself doing the journaling. I've just been showing you guys the end result. And it's not great for the channel, but it is great for me and my journaling situation, and that's why I keep doing it, because I don't make money off the channel. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe you journal better in the morning, maybe you journal better in the afternoon, maybe you need a more portable journal, maybe you need a smaller journal that you can take with you to work and, jot notes down in between meetings or during your lunch break. There are lots of different ways that you can adapt it to fit your lifestyle and your needs, and that is the most important thing for you to do. So if you have questions, comments, leave me a message down below, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful, and I will talk to you guys soon.